In this lesson, we'll look at the basic manipulations with CSV files in Python. So we have this daily demand forecast CSV file, which you can download for this lesson. So this is the CSV data that we're going to be working with. So first of all, we'll learn how to read from that file. So here, I'll need to import the CSV module. One thing to mention is that CSV has several dialects, and to find out what dialects are available to us to work with via the CSV module, we can go with the list dialects function, and as you can see, it lists Excel, Excel tab, and Unix. All right, now that we know this information, let's open the CSV file and read each row from the CSV file. So I'm going to define a function def reader sample, and I'm going to be using the context manager here as well. So with open, and then I need the full path to the file, including its name. It has a long name, but that is not a problem because the name is very descriptive of what kind of data we can expect to find in that CSV file. After that, we specify the file pointer, so as data file or DF for short. And now once it is open, we can create a reader object with the help of the CSV module's reader function. And we can pass our file pointer df to that reader function. And now to read that CSV file row by row, we can use this reader object in a simple for loop. And let's print that file's content to the console row by row, just to make sure everything works. Okay, so we should call this function first, and here we go. This is the content of our CSV file printed to the console. But rather than printing the file to the console and trying to read through and define what is what, we can use some tools available in this CSV module to inspect the file. For example, we can inspect what is the CSV dialect of this file. Does it have any headers? What the delimiters are, what the escape characters are, and so on. So let's define a new function. We'll call it sniffer. So we'll sniff on the CSV file and its properties. So once again, we'll use the context manager to open this file. So I'll just copy the name, and this time the file pointer, we'll call it sniff. So first we'll use sniffer class to create sniffer object, and we'll read the first 1024 bytes, and we'll try to define a dialect. So csv.sniffer.sniff, then sniff.read, and we will save the output to this dialect variable, and then we can access some of the properties. So we'll seek back to the beginning, and on the next line, we'll do pretty much similar operation, but for the header. So we'll be checking whether the file has header. This time we go with csv.sniffer.hasHeader, and we are reading first 1024 bytes as well. And then we're seeking back to the beginning. And now we can print whether this file has any headers. So that's going to be a Boolean value, true or false. And then we can print several properties that we now have access through the dialect. So dialect dot, we can print delimiter, and then escape character, and the quote character of that CSV file. So let's write a function call to the sniffer function, and run the code. Okay, we can see that the file has headers. The delimiter is the semicolon. Then it has no escape characters, and the quote character is normal double quotes. But of course, not only Python allows us to read the CSV file, it also allows us to write to the CSV file as well. When we were reading the CSV file, we've been using a reader. To write to the CSV file or to create a CSV file from scratch, we can use the writer. So inside of this function write data, I'll be using Context Manager as well. And here I'll say with open, and then I'll pass this the name of this training file, which we already have, and I'll specify the mode to W, which is write, and it will overwrite the content of that file. However, if I will specify some kind of a name of the file that doesn't exist yet, it will create a file for us. And here we basically use the writer class to create a CSV writer. And I'm passing my file pointer to that writer, so CSV file. And assuming we're going to overwrite the content of that CSV file anyway, similar to reading the file row by row, we're going to be writing that file row by row as well. So on that CSV writer, I'm going to call the write row function. And the first row will contain our headers. So if we look at the original file, it has names of the columns or headers as its first row. So we can just copy this first row and paste it to that write row function. And of course, once I'll paste it, it's going to be just one long string. So nevertheless, they are separated with commas. I need to enclose them in quotes. Let me just speed up here. Also, you don't necessarily have to do that. You can probably come up with a few header names and type them in here because we'll overwrite the file anyway. And I'll also put each header on the new line just to increase the readability. And after that, with the CSV writer write row, we can start populating our file with the actual values. Once again, you can come up with just a few header names and a few values, but I'll just copy possibly 3 rows of data from the original file, and I'll try to insert them into that function. And I'll speed up here to make the user experience better. I've decided to go with just a single row of data. And after that, of course, we'll need to call that function, write data. And when we'll call this function, we will override the content of the original file. Let me comment out our previous code. Right, so we will overwrite the content of the original file. So now that it will only contain 2 rows, one with headers and a single row with values. So in this lesson, we've looked at the CSV module from the standard Python library and the ways that we can write and read CSV files in Python.